Hello, my name is Florent Cabric, and on behalf of my co-authors, today I will talk about sociodemographic data representations and their specific challenges. This paper comes from the paradox. On the one hand, data visualization involves abstracting data into groups or categories and then assigning a visual mark to them. On the other hand, sociodemographic data is, per se, data about people. However, grouping people into categories can harm them by overgeneralizing, invisibilizing, or leading to biased decision-making. So designers who have ever visualized data about people once in their lives have faced the following situations. You want to visualize data representing, sometimes sensitive, demographic information about real people. And you ask yourself, what visual variable or level of aggregation should I use to be inclusive, not harm people, or allow fair decision-making? In this paper, we present three challenges that designers face in visualizing data about people: balancing efficiency, balancing simplicity, and the inclusiveness of different representation styles. Efficiency is associated with a task that the user completes accurately and quickly. For instance, if I ask you to decide which group among elephants and dogs is the tallest, this visualization is efficient. You can see that the elephants is much larger overall than the dogs. But for more complex tasks, such as decision-making, visualization must help the reader understand the visualization, define the underlying decision problem, compare different options, and then choose one option. In some time-critical decision-making tasks, such as firefighting or medicine, these tasks must be performed under time pressure, which can lower the accuracy of the decision. To speed up the decision-making process, it is not rare that decision-makers rely on stereotypes. For instance, we can use this visualization about the salary of people in a company according to both years of experience and gender. In a non-stereotypical visualization, we can represent women in a green color, men in a yellow color, and gender non-conforming people in a brown color. But with this visualization, you must rely on the legend to link the category to the visual mapping, which requires some visual back and forth between visual elements and thus may lower the efficiency. Relying on visual stereotypes by using, for instance, the blue color for men and the pink for women may fasten the understanding of the data by shortening the time you have taken to link the visual mapping and the category. And this link is made with stereotypes and preconception of what you think about color and gender. And taking stereotypes a step further, we could associate stereotyped icons with colors, with small icon with woman with a skirt and men with a suit. To be clear, in this presentation and our paper, we do not advocate at all for that kind of visualization. But we want to point out the lack of studies that investigated the impact of using stereotype visualization. Maybe using stereotype visualization offers significant gains to push our community to investigate non-stereotypical alternative designs that preserve those gains. Or the potential gains are insufficient to consider using stereotype visualization, and research should focus on raising awareness of stereotypes. Simplicity is a concept often promoted in our community, while in contrast, the complexity tends to be rejected by designers. For instance, if we visualize the ethnicity of a UK residents, simplicity can relate to minimizing the number of groups. Here, only 5 ethnic groups are represented, making the chart easily understandable. However, this simple representation hides the diversity and invisibilizes the people who do not feel described in any of these categories. In addition, some previous works demystify the quest for simplicity and argue that complexity can lead to inclusivity and help to gain deeper insight. For instance, 20 groups now are represented in this visualization, making the chart more complex. But in the UK's people who filled in the census, 288 different ethnic groups were collected. Here, we can see the 288 groups visualized, which maybe convey a better feel of representation for the people, but make the chart also quite unreadable. This trade-off between simplicity and better representation raises an important question. To what extent can better representation of people from marginalized groups reduce the efficiency or lead to biased decisions that may harm the people represented? To be clear again, we are not advocating at all for the invisibilization of groups in data visualization. On the contrary, we want visualization researchers to invest time in understanding the effect of this trade-off on tasks as complex as decision-making. Finally, designing not harmful visualizations requires to think about the inclusiveness of our representation style. Visualizing sociodemographic data per se represents or summarizes information about people, real people, and bridging the gap between the abstraction required for data visualization and the people behind the data has been a topic of study in our community for the past decade. For example, Morais and colleagues have proposed a 7-dimensional design space, one of which, granularity, focuses on the association between the visual mark and the number of people it represents. It starts from the low granularity, while the marks aggregate all the people within the same group. Intermediate, the marks visualized represent a fixed number of people. We also know this visualization as unit-based visualizations. And the maximum, where each mark is associated with one individual. This continuum poses interesting questions, including the extent to which people feel better represented in maximum granularity, and the effect of such representation on understanding the underlying data. For example, if maximum granularity confers a sense of inclusion, how can these techniques be adapted to large datasets as we have seen previously? On a different note, anthropographics, so using human-shaped visual marks, has explored how to design visualization that fosters a greater sense of inclusivity. However, the representation of human-shaped icons is challenging. By reusing the example of visualizing the salary of people in a company according to both the years of experience and gender. If we transform this visualization into an anthropographic representation, we must use the same icons for all the people within the same groups. But what visual attribute can both represent a whole group of people and at the same time not convey stereotypes? Are there any human-shaped icons either to categorize people that are not based on stereotypes? So this question remains, and for sure further research is needed. These three challenges lead to many research questions, but this presentation does not claim to be exhaustive at all. We see our work as a part of an ongoing process in the visualization community, and we hope that the research questions we highlighted there will be discussed during this workshop and within the community.